Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. An old friend we've been interviewing for over 20 years. He is a legend. He is a star. He is Sir Cliff Richard. And he's back with a Christmas single, which is going to be number one. It's called It's Better to Dream. And I'm delighted to say, live from New York is Sir Cliff Richard. How are you?
I'm fine, Alex. Thank you very much. How nice of you to say that you think it might be number one. I've always said all of us aim at number one, but you have to get used to the fact that very often you don't make it. But I've got my fingers crossed.
Well, the other thing as well is it's a bit stitched up these days, and it's not as fertile as it was when you were there that you could grow a hit. Now it's sort of a bit pre-arranged, isn't it? So I guess it doesn't matter as long as the fans love it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, it's a song that I think... when I first played it to friends of mine, they loved all the rock and roll stuff because they all knew the rock and roll stuff. But all of them said, "What's that last song? Play that last song again. That was fabulous." And they liked the new song, which is interesting to me because sometimes it takes a while to get into a song. So maybe that bodes well. I've got my fingers crossed that maybe people will get into this. It's a rather lovely melody, and it's a sort of happy, sad dream of Christmas song.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's Christmassy in a way, but it's also lovely any other time of the year. We had a message from Melissa who said, who wrote the words? Because they are meaningful.
Well, originally written by Steve Mandel, the producer, and his writing partner, whose name slips my mind at the moment. But when we changed it to the Christmas song, I joined them in writing the lyrics. So the verse after the solo, that's mine. And a couple of lines as well. So all three of us put our heads together and turned it into a Christmas track, even though it's not a song about Christmas. It's about something that people feel at Christmas, about being alone and away from people they love.
I love that it's called It's Better to Dream, which is such an optimistic title, as is the whole album, really. The fabulous rock and roll album that you've just released, I think is your best album in many years. It is the epitome of a Cliff album, and it's what we love and what you do best. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's great. I love singing this kind of material. Remember, I lived in that period. I grew up in that period. I was influenced by all those wonderful, the Elvis, the Little Richard, Everly Brothers, Ricky Nelson, Buddy Holly, Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, and so were the Beatles, funnily enough. I wasn't the only one. Even though the Beatles started 5 years after me, they were the same age as I was. So they went through the same process of learning from America. And when I got into the studio with the album, I just felt like I was in my zone. This is where I'm most comfortable. I love it.
And you got to duet with Elvis Presley. I mean, that was born to happen, really. Finally, you made it happen.
Finally made it, with a little bit of help from Priscilla Presley, who told me, please get in touch with Sony. She said if it was up to her, she'd have let me do a whole album with Elvis, but she said it's not up to her. She said Sony own everything. They won't let you do an album, but they will let you do something. So we got in touch, my office got in touch, and they asked me what track I'd like to do, and I chose Blue Suede Shoes. And I just love it. It was a little disturbing recording it because I had to go back and correct myself a couple of times because I was so busy. Can you imagine with the headphones on and Elvis is singing with me? It was a little disconcerting.
How incredible. For those wondering, we are live on the line from New York, so if the line's a bit dodgy, don't worry, Cliff's fine. He's just a long way away. I guess for you, your international audience, and we've seen this on Twitter and Facebook, it is remarkable, isn't it? As many fans are in the UK, you've probably got even more around the world. It's remarkable.
Yes, because the Shadows and I, when we first started, almost immediately went off and toured Europe. We spent the first couple of years mostly touring Britain, of course. I mean, I don't know, hundreds of concerts a year. And that's what you did when you first started. Then when records really started to sell, you spread your wings a little to try and sell more records. And in those days, we used to do concerts to try and sell records. Nowadays, you can't sell so many records, so you have to do concerts to even make a record. So we went everywhere. We went, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Holland, Belgium, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal. We went to Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And so over the years, of course, I've garnered a number of fans from around the world, and they've all remained really loyal. I can still tour many of those places.
Where is home for you now? I mean, you spent a lot of the last year or so in Portugal. You've got homes around the world, and that's down to a lifetime of working hard and the payoffs of that. Where is home?
I reside in Barbados. That's the place where I have to spend most of my time. And, I started to do that because it's sunny. It's a sunny, hot place. I remember when my mum and dad, as they were getting older, kept saying, "Oh, we can't wait to live in a nice, hot, sunny climate." I'm thinking, "Oh dear, these old people." Anyway, I'm one of them now. I don't like winter at all. Even though I'm here in New York and it is winter, I'm not going to be here that long. Yeah. And I'm going to have Christmas in Fort Lauderdale, where it's probably be 80 degrees,
wow.
And in Florida, and then I go to Barbados, which is where I reside.
Yeah.
And when they get those sheets and they say, "Where do you live?" I feel like writing "the planet."
Yes.
Because I love going to Portugal. I go to Portugal for the summer. I go to Barbados for the winter, and then in between I'm in the States and touring somewhere else. And it's a rather fantastic life. But I'm not pinned to any one place at the moment. I feel at home. What was that song that Paul, what's his name, did? Anywhere I hang my hat.
Yes. Yeah.
Is home.
And again, we think about this forthcoming Christmas, only 4 weeks away. There's got to be a real sentiment to it this year because you are at peace, you're able to enjoy, nothing's in the back of your mind. You must be looking forward to it.
I am actually, yes. The last couple of Christmases have been a little bit fraught, even though I've been surrounded by friends, absolutely surrounded by friends, and constantly supported by fans. It's been quite an incredible learning process for me. You know, I felt like saying, maybe one day I will. I'll say it to you now. I've got to feel the one thing I'm very grateful to the South Yorkshire Police for is that they showed me that I had more love than they did.
Yeah.
They showed I was more loved than they were, and so it was a learning process to suddenly realize that even people who don't buy your records necessarily, even they were coming to me in the street and in airports and stuff and wishing me well and saying, "Good on you, we're right behind you, mate." And people, you know, I look at them and I know you can't judge people strictly by looking at them, but, you know, I said to myself, they didn't buy summer holiday or live in Dole. So I appreciated the support that the public gave me.
What happens on an average Cliff Christmas then? Do you wake up in the morning with a bacon sandwich? What happens?
Well, it varies actually. It's all changed actually because there was a time when I would have all my family would come over. Two of my sisters, one of my sisters is a Jehovah's Witness, so they don't celebrate Christmas. Although I did have an arrangement with them to say, look, you don't have to celebrate Christmas, but I hope you don't mind. I will buy you gifts, and you can have them after Christmas. So we had an understanding, but my other two sisters and the children all came for Christmas, and it was fantastic. But you know what happens? My nephews and nieces have all grown up. They've now got married, and they've got children. Oh. And, of course, the Christmas becomes another family. You know, another family getting, the new family coming together for Christmas. So, fortunately, again, as I said, I've got loads of friends. And so this year I'm going to spend time in Fort Lauderdale in Florida. Some friends have invited me to join them there for Christmas, and that's what I'll do. And it'll be really nice. I'll phone my sisters and chat to them, but I won't be with them.
I know you still see yourself as 25, and so you should, because you've got that youthful energy, and I think the audience love is what inspires you to get out of bed in the morning. I guess the next generation of families is the future, and that's fun too, because the children that you're holding in your arms, you're now holding their children.
That's right, yeah, absolutely. It's quite fantastic how time flies by too. That doesn't. I don't know how to feel anymore. You know, you mentioned about being 25. Whenever I sing "Move It," for instance, I'm taken right back to when I was 17. You know, I recorded that when I was 17 and a half years old. I mean, 6 months before that, I'm still at school. And so it's a very warm spot in my heart. But when I'm singing it, I think to myself, I don't feel any different to that moment when I've stood in that studio at Studio 2 in Abbey Road and recorded "Move It." I go back there every time I sing the dance song.
And it's still your greatest song, isn't it? Let's face it.
If I was to pick a song that was an iconic rock and roll song of mine, that would be the one. You know, I have to say, though, that I have been so lucky I've been given phenomenal songs to sing. Yeah. "Devil Woman" to me is a perfect pop song. Perfect.
And do you know the one that still makes me cry is "Miss You Nights"? I just love that.
"Miss You Nights" is a perfect ballad. It's like singing "Honey." "We Don't Talk Anymore" turned out to be the biggest selling single I ever had. Again, they're all elements, they're all written by people who really knew what they were doing. Terry Britton wrote "Devil Woman." He had his finger on the pulse of what... In fact, he said to me that was inspired by Grapevine. You know, I heard it on the Grapevine.
Yeah. Marvin Gaye.
Because of that riff. Grapevine had that dun, 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 dun. And Terry just put it all backwards. It went down, 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 Devil Woman. So it's kind of influenced by that stuff. And so for me, it's a cracking song. Great guitar solo, fantastic chorus, and a story to tell. So moving's always going to be, I guess, number one.
We've spoken so many times over the years, and this time I thought I'd ask Twitter and Facebook what they wanted to know. And universally, the questions that people had were about faith, looking forward and keeping the faith, and loss. Since we last spoke, Cliff, we've lost Cilla. I know you've lost people very close to you. The one question people ask is, in those dark times, where do you find the strength to get out of bed in the morning and fight on? Because it's been a very difficult couple of years for you, hasn't it, in terms of loss?
It was. Not only did I have to deal with the agonizing accusations, I lost somebody who used to work for me, and he died. My niece died. They both were buried last July. Cilla died, Cilla Black. So it was a horrifying time all told, and I could well done without that happening. But in terms of faith, what got me through my 2 years was the fact that even though I had the support of friends and fans, my friends would visit. There comes that moment in the evening, they all say good night, and you're on your own again. And those were the most difficult times. And so for me, being able to pray about it, and in fact, funny enough, I forgave my accuser about 2 nights into my tragic 22 months, because I thought I don't think I'm going to cope with this if the hate and the vengeance was building up in me. I was thinking, if ever I find out I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure. Anyway, I just lay in my bed, and I think, and because I never felt that God actually gave up on me. I wasn't going to give up on him.
Right.
And so I prayed regularly, and the second or third night into my troubles, I just had to say the words, and I just said, I forgive him. I forgive this guy. I don't know who he is, but I forgive him. And you know what? I've read this before anyway, but I proved it to be true. Forgiveness is more about you. Sometimes, and this guy didn't even know I'd forgiven him.
Do you know what's interesting, though? You're so magnanimous saying that. I struggle with that. And if I'm being real and honest right now, I am a person who doesn't forgive and forget easily. It's a very evolved way to look at it, because I'd be so upset and angry, and yours was so public. I wondered at this point, do you almost want to meet him to find out why? Because that would be the biggest question I'd have.
That's the question I've got now. What I've said often is I cannot understand how someone could knowingly tell a lie like that about somebody, another human being, knowing that this human being was me, and that it was going to make all the stories all around the world. And of course, that's what happened. It was on television as well, of course, and it meant that within an hour or so, that story hit every country in the world. People, and what they didn't see live, they woke up to because of time differences and things. So, again, I have no hate or vengeance, but I do have the curiosity to find out why did he do that? Yeah, I mean, maybe some psychiatrist will be able to let me know. But even then, it won't be very satisfying. It's just that it's done, and I don't particularly want to meet him.
Right.
I've always said to myself, I couldn't possibly like him, so why meet him? And I like meeting people that I like and having friendships that I love, which I do, and so I surround myself with those people. Having forgiven him, of course, I slowly lost the anger that was there. And although it didn't help me, I never got more than about 3 hours sleep a night for those 22 months and 2 days. Yeah. But the anger went, but my friend said, as you said, well, we are really angry. Heaven help him if we meet him. And I said, look, I'm really happy that you're angry on my behalf, but I can't live like that. I won't be able to get through these months. I thought it was just going to be weeks. I knew it was a lie. He must have known it was a lie. God knew it was a lie. But it went on for so long, and even now, I can't even say I had charges dropped. I was never arrested and never charged with anything. So that's another question I asked. Why did I have to go through all of that?
We had a message from Peter on Facebook who was talking about he'd been through a dark time. He didn't say what, but at his lowest moments, he had no one to turn to. I don't want to major on this, but at the darkest times, is there any hope you can give people? Is there any words of advice for those lowest moments?
I can't believe that someone had no friends at all. But if there was a time, and you're saying that somebody actually said this, that they had nobody to turn to, you have to relook at atheism or belief. And if you choose atheism, then you have to just put up with what you haven't got, no friends. If you choose faith and belief, you instantly have someone who will listen.
That's interesting.
You can actually spout everything you say. And psychologically, it does do you good to vocalize what you're feeling. And I vocalize what I felt many times, not only to my friends, but certainly to God, nightly to God.
Yeah. And no bitterness whatsoever. That's what I think is the most inspiring. No bitterness?
Yeah, none at all. Curiosity, but no bitterness.
Very finally, I want to move on and talk about you. I look at this picture here on the front of the new single, which is available now. It's Better to Dream, the Christmas mix of Cliff Richard's new single off the album, The Fabulous Rock and Roll. And there you are looking Mr. Delicious. Is it fun being you now? Because, I mean, I'm a deeply unattractive man. You know this about me, Cliff. When you look in the mirror now, I mean, you've made it, haven't you? You're successful. You're still making music. People still are flocking to see you. You're doing another tour in 2017. People are coming out. Is it nice to be a sex symbol and to be here and present and relevant?
Yes, and yes. It is. It's always going to be nice. I'm not sure about the sex symbol bit anymore, but fortunately, men attract women, women attract men, and I suppose predominantly my audience has been female, but I don't necessarily feel that all we do is to think about sex, about each other. It's just that people like me, and I like being liked. And you know what? I saw an interview of an old couple who were celebrating their 60th anniversary. This was years and years ago. I mean, 35 years ago, maybe. And the interviewer said to the woman, he said, "Baby, why are you still with this man?" And she just touched her husband's hand and she said, "I like him." And I thought, oh my goodness, isn't it great to fall in like and have it last 60 years?
Yep.
So I'm happy that people like what I do. They seem to like my voice. Not everybody, of course, I realize that. But as long as there's an audience that wants to hear me, I'm happy to sing. If they're happy to come and see me, I'm happy to perform and be seen. And so, I'm a very, very fortunate man.
I thank you for the time. You didn't have to talk to me today. I'm very grateful. Over the many years we've been talking, doing these interviews, and we wish you all the best and a very happy Christmas. Sir Cliff Richard, it's Better to Dream, the Christmas mix, the new single out for Christmas.
Thank you.
Real pleasure. Cheers, Sir Cliff.
Cheers. Bye-bye.